It's time for you to get more involved with MadPropsAero than just being a viewer. It's time for you to be a participant. All you have to do is come up with a question or a comment that matters to you. Then grab your handy dandy smartphone, put it like this, horizontal, not like this, vertical, shoot a video, keep it under 2 minutes long, and let us know what you're thinking. You can send it to us at madpropsaero@gmail.com. You can use a service like Google Drive to compress it down and send it. We would love to see what you got going on in your head and in your life. If you've got something to say, we want to hear about it. So grab your phone, shoot a video, and send it to us. madpropsaero@gmail.com. Hey, welcome back. You know, it has been said many times over many years by many people that the private pilot certificate is a license to learn. I'd like to believe that's true, but then isn't every certificate and rating a license to learn? I believe the correct answer is yes. And beyond that, isn't every certificate and rating an opportunity to teach? I think it is. Non-traditional as that belief may be, give me a minute and I think I might be able to pull you over to my side of things. The private pilot certificate is the starting point for most of us. You can start with a sport certificate. There's nothing wrong with that. Upgrade it to a private or just stay a sport pilot. Whatever works for you, works for you. But whether you're doing the sport pilot or the private pilot, when you pass that check ride, and it is a proud day in one's life when they do that, you do it knowing you are absolutely minimally qualified to fly the airplane. You meet the minimum standard. You're not exceptionally good at it, and how could you be? You don't have a lot of experience. You've just worked with a CFI, you know how to get through the basics, and now you're good enough to go out on your own. Not much different than a kid with a learner's permit driving mom's minivan. Now, some people stay private pilots for their entire flying career, and that's fine. There's nothing that says a private pilot or a sport pilot can't be an exceptionally talented pilot, provided they take that license to learn thing seriously and really put in the effort. Maybe they add a seaplane rating, maybe they add glider rating, maybe they take a mountain flying course. It really doesn't matter. They could do upset training and spin training. There's a whole slew of things any pilot can do to improve their skill set and understand more about the aircraft. That's everything about continuing education and adding the other certificates and ratings. That's all it's about. But you can do that on your own too, even if you have no desire to become a professional pilot. Now, as for the teaching aspect, yes, as a student pilot, you can be a teacher to your CFI. There will be things that come up where your CFI tells you to do something or not do something. You start talking to other pilots, or maybe you watch MadProp's video and listen to Pat and Jamie and you say, wait a minute, I heard something different. There's nothing wrong with during that post-flight debrief when your instructor says, hey, remember to do this. You could very reasonably say, you know, I appreciate that. Thanks, but I was listening to some other experienced flight instructors, people been in the business for a long time, and they were saying not to do that, and that piqued my interest. I started looking for a reference, and I can't find anything that tells me to do what you're telling me to do. It's not in the FARs, it's not in the AIM, it's not in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, it's not in the Airplane Flying Handbook. Can you point me to the reference that tells me to do that? This is not being argumentative. This is being specific. You're showing real drive to know the material, and you're diplomatically telling your CFI, I don't think you're right on this. If you are, show me the reference and I will absolutely do things the way you're telling me to do them. But it's possible you'll teach your CFI something they didn't know in a way that doesn't embarrass the CFI or erode your confidence in them. We're going to talk about that a little more in just a minute. First, let's talk about that instrument rating. That's a huge step up. Generally, if you add an instrument rating to your private pilot certificate, your insurance rates may go down. And that's because you're a more proficient, more knowledgeable pilot. But just the same, getting that instrument rating means you're minimally qualified to fly in the system, to file and fly an instrument flight plan. When you shoot your first solo approach down to minimums, that's quite a moment. Even more maybe is the first time you're on your own in IMC and you accept a hold instruction and you have that moment going, how do I do this? And you enter that hold correctly, your confidence starts to build. And you may do things wrong sometimes. That's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. We all make mistakes. ATC will work with you and you'll get it nailed down. And then that'll tell you, I have a license to learn. I need to go work with the CFII and up these skills so I'm really good at this, because if I'm going to put my family in the airplane and fly an IMC, I need to make sure I'm on top of my game. That's the exact reason most CFIIs will recommend to somebody who's got a new instrument rating, go file and fly instrument regularly for several months. This is a highly degradable skill. It's not something you can acquire and then ignore for 6 months and then go shoot a few approaches and everything's good. You really need to work at it. It is a license to learn. That's even true of the commercial pilot certificate. And that is a proud moment. When you pass that commercial pilot check ride, you're now allowed to get paid to fly an airplane. And you're very cognizant of the fact that the ACS, the Airman Certification Standard for commercial pilots, has tighter standards than the private pilot or the sport pilot you started out with. You're becoming a better pilot, but you're still just getting a license to learn. You're more serious. You're really trying to nail those landings with precision where you're on the center line and you touch down gracefully and you maintain control of the airplane. You're learning how to anticipate issues because you've got more experience, but you're still a relatively low-time pilot in most cases, and you're getting a license to learn. Having that belief that I've attained a level that I'm very proud of, but I'm not where I want to be, that's a big deal. That's going to affect your hireability because the attitude is important. Who wants to deal with an arrogant ass? But it's also going to keep you safer because you're aware, I've really achieved something. I've come a long way in this business, but I still have things to learn, and I still know people I can learn from. When you finally get to the CFI level, man, you've really done something. Becoming a CFI takes real effort. You have to study, you have to practice, you have to learn how to teach while you fly. And that's not something that comes naturally to us. We have to work at it. And you get that initial CFI or double I or MEI. So you're a flight instructor, an instrument instructor, a multi-engine instructor. You are proud of yourself and you deserve to be, but you're still a 300-ish hour pilot. You can't go into being a flight instructor, or let me say, you shouldn't go into being a flight instructor thinking you're the coolest, most knowledgeable person on the planet, because you're not. We all run this risk as CFIs because now we're walking in and somebody's paying for our flight time and we're flying with people who know almost nothing and they think we're amazing. And we're pretty proud of ourselves too, deservedly so. But at 300, 400, 500 hours, do you really know all there is to know? Seriously? I didn't. I'll bet you don't either. Admitting ignorance is the first step to gaining real knowledge. The more you fly, the more experience you get. The more experience you get, the more insight you have. The more insight you have, the better instructor you can be. It's all about acknowledging, I know a lot, and I've come a long way, but I don't know it all, and there's a long way to go. And in fact, nobody knows it all. We just all know different things. Even if you make it to the airline transport pilot certificate level, the top of the heap, the peak of the pyramid, these are the folks that fly airliners. They are really skilled. They've put in years of effort. They know what they're doing. You want to go out there with the attitude that every captain I fly with has something to teach me, whether that's about the aircraft, or the procedures we're going to use, or the destination we're at, or the weather we're going to encounter, or just the interpersonal part of how do we interact with each other. And let's face it, sometimes that interpersonal part can be serious. It may be that we don't get along, and that captain won't shut up about something that's just irritating the hell out of me. And I learn that's not something I want to do when I move over to the left seat. We all have something to learn. We always have something to learn. The technology changes, the regulations change, the handbook changes, our operational standards change. We're always in flux learning more, and that's okay. Because every one of us, including you, has something to teach everybody else we fly with. But we should remain open to what do they have to teach us. Because whether they're your student pilot or whether they're your captain, that person in the left seat knows things. Let me give you an example of how important this can be in the worst possible sense. Years ago, there was an accident in commercial aviation. And in the investigation, trying to figure out what went wrong, they discovered something that nobody had ever thought about before. This flight was flown by a newly upgraded captain who had a newly upgraded FO in the right seat. Both of them were new to their position. Both of them were new to the aircraft they were flying. Nobody on the flight deck had a deep level of experience on this aircraft. Unfortunately, that turned out poorly for that flight, but that taught the FAA and the airline and the industry as a whole. Everybody has something to teach. So when that newly upgraded captain moves to new equipment and is flying in a new aircraft, let's make sure the first officer has a lot of experience in that aircraft and can help the captain. Sure, the captain's taking responsibility for the flight, but the FO has something to share of real value. By the same token, when we have an experienced captain and a new FO comes in upgrading to new equipment or just new on the job, that captain's job is to shepherd them along, to teach them how to function within the system. This seems like a really basic thing, but we forget it very quickly because we get that private pilot license to learn and we take that seriously for about 90 days. Then we start thinking we're really cool and we're hot stuff and I don't need to listen to anybody. The truth is, we all have something to learn, and that will never change. Throughout our entire career, we all need to learn something from somebody else. So take the right attitude. Take your license to learn seriously at every level of certification, at every rating. Be the best pilot you can be, the safest pilot you can be, the most upstanding, respected pilot you can be, by always keeping the attitude, whoever's in the other seat, whichever seat that is, they have something to teach me. And when I go down to dispatch or the FBO or whatever, every single pilot there knows something I don't know. So let's stay open to it. Let's be curious. Let's be better. Hey, thanks a lot for watching. Click the like button. Share a comment if you agree or disagree. I can take it. And of course, subscribe to the channel because we love having you along for the ride. We'll see you next time.